Hooray for Hollywood! Hello there, Stan the Movie Man here with your WIMZ.com movie review. This week you voted for me to see Man of Steel, starring Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Michael Shannon, Diane Lane, Russell Crowe, let's see, Christopher Maloney's in there, along with Kevin Costner, Lawrence Fishburne, and a whole bunch of other people. It is the many times told story of how a young baby from Krypton, the planet Krypton, was sent to Earth by his parents and becomes a unique individual on Earth. In this version of the story, the grown-up Kal-El from Krypton, played by Henry Cavill, is known on Earth as Clark Kent, of course. He's journeying, trying to find himself, I suppose. He's up in Alaska. He's on a fishing boat where he helps save some workmen on an oil tanker. He takes various odd jobs to get by. And then he hears about a discovery of something that's buried in the ice. And because of how deep it is and core samples, they're able to tell that this object has been in the ice for nearly 20,000 years. Using his heat vision, Clark is able to bore a hole into where the ship is, and he has with him a little thing, looks kind of like a flash drive, which goes into a perfectly matched shaped hole in the ship, which activates it and begins a hologram of his father, Jor-El, who is played by Russell Crowe. Now, because of the newsworthiness of this discovery, Lois Lane from the Daily Planet newspaper, who is, of course, played by Amy Adams, has followed Clark through this hole that he's bored, not actually seeing him do it, and is attacked by an automated sentry device inside of the ship. And it turns out it is a scout ship from the planet Krypton, and the hologram of his father begins to give him the lowdown on who he is and why he's there. The ship, after Clark saves Lois from the automated sentry, he puts her out on the ice, and he takes off, and the ship deposits itself someplace else. I guess this would be his Fortress of Solitude. There he learns about his Kryptonian heritage and learns his name is Kal-El. He also learns about a guy named General Zod, who attempted an overthrow of the government on the planet of Krypton. You see, Zod seems to think that he is the only one who should be able to decide which genetic lines of Kryptonians should live or die. It's kind of a, you know, one of those guys. Because he was trying to overthrow the government, he gets sent to the Phantom Zone along with all of his people. The destruction of Krypton allows him and his people to escape the Phantom Zone, and they track Kal-El to Earth. Zod wants to turn Earth into the new Krypton, and it's up to Kal-El to stop him. Boy howdy. This is a huge, huge movie. It has a budget of about $225 million, and they probably spent about half that much on television commercials and all kinds of other advertising and tie-ins. It's doing incredible business in its first weekend, and largely that is, I think, because of the curiosity factor. For me personally, Superman was my favorite character as a child growing up. I spent many hours as a youth, a youngin', with a red towel tied around my neck, jumping off the couch and fighting imaginary battles with Lex Luthor and Brainiac and other villains of my own creation. So I'm sure a lot of other people did that too, and the anticipation about this film was very high. I was kind of worried because Zack Snyder was the director, because I saw Sucker Punch. Now, sometimes he makes good movies like 300, sometimes he makes impressive films that have some problems, like The Watchmen, excuse me, or Watchmen, and then he makes movies like Sucker Punch. So, I was a little concerned. Christopher Nolan is a producer. Okay, maybe he'll be a sort of calming influence, and it's kind of the best and worst of both worlds. The film looks spectacular. The flying is beautiful, and at times I felt a little chill run up my spine because it looks really good. It's often shown from a perspective behind Superman as he's flying. And they've attempted to ground the story more in the real world, and it's less of a kind of comic booky, cartoony environment for Superman, which works, but kinda doesn't sometimes. And the battle sequences between Superman and Zod and other of the Kryptonian aliens that come to Earth just seem to go on forever at times. Oftentimes they're quite spectacular, sometimes they're kind of tedious. But overall, the film has not the kind of, quirky sweetness that the Richard Donner Superman movie did, but it has, I think, at its essence, a good heart, and part of that making it a more realistic take on the Superman mythos involves a decision that Superman makes that may come as a surprise to some people. I'm not going to spoiler it, but let's just say it's something that I don't think any of us have ever seen the Man of Steel do before. Having said all of that, what do I think of the film? It is at times brilliant and tedious, just depends, and worth your time, I think. If you're a fan of Superman, then by all means see Man of Steel. I'm giving it 4 guitars. Go to WIMZ.com to read my complete review, as well as to vote on the movie that I'll see next time. Your questions or comments are always welcome. Feel free to send them to me at StanTheMovieMan@att.net, and you can follow me on Twitter @MovieManStan. Till next time, see ya. Up.